My aunt wore a fake Chanel suit to my grandmother's funeral and gave a eulogy about herself. 2 weeks later, she'd stolen $420,000 and the will. I buried my grandmother on a Thursday. By Friday, I was erased from the inheritance. By Saturday, I knew who did it. By Sunday, I was planning her downfall. She didn't cry at the funeral, not even fake tears, just floated around in black Chanel knockoffs like she was hosting a corporate luncheon, not a burial. She even gave the eulogy, and made it mostly about herself, about how she sacrificed everything to care for Grandma. Lies. I grew up in that house. Grandma raised me while Lorraine was off climbing the real estate ladder and collecting ex-husbands. But now, somehow, Grandma's house, her savings, her stocks, everything, had been left to Lorraine. Not a cent to me. The lawyer showed me the papers. I sat there in her office while she filed her nails and offered me tea like I was a guest, not family. The will was dated just 2 weeks before Grandma passed. Lorraine said, "Well, maybe Grandma changed her mind." Yeah, sure. Maybe she also forgot that she promised me her pearl necklace when I got married. The one she let me try on when I was 15 and whispered, "This will be yours one day, sweetheart." Funny, I didn't see the necklace anywhere. Just Lorraine, with a new diamond bracelet and a smirk. Something didn't feel right. I've spent 17 years in the army. I know what manipulation looks like. And Lorraine? She'd always been charming, polished, and cold underneath. The kind of woman who offers you a casserole while slipping a knife between your ribs. And now she thought I'd just salute and walk away? She may have buried the will, but I wasn't done digging. And what I found would make her choke on her fake pearls. Lorraine thought she'd buried all the secrets with Grandma, but she forgot one thing. I never throw anything away. Not the spare key to Grandma's cedar chest, not the last letter she wrote me from the hospital, and definitely not my grudge. Before I get into how I burned her whole scheme to ash, you need to understand just who Lorraine really is, and what she did. She's the kind of woman who brings store-bought lasagna to a dying mother and calls it homemade. Who shows up after 15 years of silence with an iPad and says, "Let's go over your finances, Mama," like it's a favor. Who waits until you're at the corner store buying coffee creamer before pulling out updated paperwork for a vulnerable woman with tremors in both hands? I came home on leave, hoping to surprise Grandma. I found Lorraine instead, sitting at the kitchen table with a stack of legal documents and a smile so forced it should have cracked her face. She didn't even flinch when I walked in. "Oh, Jess, we were just organizing some of Mama's things," she purred, nudging the papers out of sight. That should have been my first clue. Grandma looked confused. Her voice was weak. "I thought we already did all that stuff." Lorraine leaned in close. "Just making sure everything's really protected, Mama." I told myself I was overreacting, that I was paranoid. I mean, who goes full conspiracy over estate paperwork? Apparently, I should have. Because 3 months later, Grandma was gone, and Lorraine was reading a new will with a date suspiciously close to that weekend. I got books. Lorraine got everything else. The house, the accounts, even the antique ring Grandma wore every Sunday to church. At first, I thought it was grief clouding my judgment. But then I found the original will. Or at least, I found the receipt for it. Tucked inside one of Grandma's old cookbooks was a yellowed invoice from Peterson and Blake, the law office she and I had visited together 2 years earlier. It clearly listed beneficiary Jessica Moore. I remembered that day, Grandma gripping my hand in the attorney's office, whispering, "Don't let that snake charm her way back into my life." She meant Lorraine. So why would she reverse course 3 months before her death? She wouldn't, which meant Lorraine had help or had forged the documents outright. But I needed proof, and I knew just where to start looking. The cedar chest in Grandma's closet, the one Lorraine didn't know I had the key to, and inside, buried beneath old cookbooks and lies, a receipt for the original will, and the first nail in Lorraine's designer coffin. Lorraine thought I'd crumble. The dutiful military granddaughter, too stoic to ask questions, too grief-shocked to rock the boat. She didn't realize she'd just picked a fight with someone trained to win wars quietly. At the reading of the will, where she read the forged document herself like she was starring in a Hallmark courtroom drama, I played my role to perfection. I wore my best poker face, added a single strategic tear, and whispered, "Grandma must have really trusted you. She always said you were the strong one." Lie number 1. and she ate it up like it was a compliment dipped in honey. Meanwhile, I'd already begun assembling my task force. Step 1. Contact attorney Shauna Grant. I'd seen her grinning confidently from billboards for months. Got estate drama? Grant's your gal. Corny? Yes. But her online reviews read like victory speeches from families she'd rescued. Step 2. Call in a favor from Danielle, my old buddy from base, now working in military cyber intelligence. We'd shared a tent in Qatar, traded horror stories over instant ramen, and covered each other's backs more than once. She owed me big. Danielle didn't waste time. Within hours, she sent encrypted screenshots that made my blood run cold. Lorraine had refinanced Grandma's house for $420,000, just 2 weeks after the funeral. Let that sink in. She'd turned grief into a cash machine. And the speed of it? Like the paperwork had been ready before Grandma even passed. This wasn't mourning. This was a heist. But I needed more than paperwork and hunches. I needed her voice, her confession. So I invited Lorraine to dinner. Nothing dramatic, just a sweet, sorrowful niece asking for comfort over wine and mozzarella sticks at Chili's on a sleepy Tuesday night. She loved playing the benevolent aunt. I gave her the full spotlight. As she launched into her lecture about financial maturity and how not everyone's cut out to handle inheritance, my phone, nestled in my purse, was recording everything. Then she said it. She was confused, you understand? I didn't force her. I just helped her see reason. Sometimes she'd forget we'd discussed the will and bring up the old one again. It was heartbreaking. My hand tightened around my soda straw. Grandma was sharper than Lorraine ever was. The only thing she ever forgot was to water her orchids. Once. 2 months before she died, she beat me at Scrabble. Twice. Lorraine thought she was untouchable. She didn't realize she'd just said the magic words that would bury her, but I was just getting started. You don't drop a missile until you've mapped the terrain. I had the voice recording. I had the refinance paperwork. But I needed proof that Grandma hadn't been confused, feeble, or misremembering anything. So I went straight to the one person who knew her state of mind better than any of us, Dr. Branson, old-school physician, house call hero, the kind of man who still used a fountain pen and sent birthday cards. His clinic sat in a creaky Victorian house downtown, all warm wood floors and the comforting scent of menthol rub. I showed up in uniform, part respect, part strategy. Around Fort Bragg, that still means something. The receptionist, Mrs. Darlene, blinked twice before her eyes lit up. Jessie Hartwell? Good Lord, you were just a baby last time I saw you. Come on in, sugar. Dr. Branson emerged moments later, his kind eyes crinkling. Your grandmother lit up every time you visited. Said you were the only one who didn't treat her like a chore. My throat tightened, but I stayed focused. Doctor, I think someone manipulated her. I need your help to protect what she left behind. He hesitated at first. HIPAA is a beast. It's the Federal Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, and among other things, it's designed to protect the confidentiality of healthcare information. He had to consider the risk to his career, but then he nodded, disappearing into his files. 10 minutes later, I held a printed page that made my pulse spike. Patient remains of sound mind and judgment, alert and oriented to person, place, and time. No signs of dementia or cognitive decline. Continues managing medications independently. Dated, 2 weeks before the will change. Boom. Legal dynamite. Signed, sealed, time-stamped. Now my evidence stack looked like this. Audio. Lorraine claiming Grandma was confused. Medical proof. She absolutely wasn't. Transaction trail. $420,000 stolen via fraudulent refinancing. Timeline. Lorraine had motive, opportunity, and one very sketchy lawyer. And that lawyer? Not just sketchy. Disbarred in another state for document tampering. His name was David Kellerman. Shauna, my attorney, found him tucked behind Lorraine's so-called new will. Turns out he'd only recently clawed his way back into law practice after a previous suspension, the same man who supposedly helped Grandma update her will. Yeah, right. This wasn't just fraud. This was a coordinated con, but I wasn't going to settle for a long, quiet lawsuit. Lorraine needed more than a court date. She needed a stage. So I called someone who'd give her one. Laura, Lorraine's daughter, Instagram famous. #family first #blessed #girl boss. We hadn't spoken beyond strained Christmas texts in years. But I sent her one message that said everything. Meet me. I've got receipts, literal ones. She replied within 45 minutes. The next day, we met at a little coffee shop in Raleigh, halfway between my lawyer's office and her Pilates studio. She arrived in designer sunglasses, high ponytail, and lashes that could swat flies. I came in combat boots and zero patience. I slid the USB across the table. On it, audio, documents, screenshots, and a scanned copy of the original will Grandma had signed 2 years before. Laura listened, quietly. Then she asked just one question. Did she really steal all of it? I didn't answer. I just let her read the affidavit from Dr. Branson and watch the waveform of her mother's voice say the words. She was confused. Laura didn't finish her cold brew. She walked out without a word. But 3 hours later, I got a notification. Laura had posted a cryptic message to her Instagram story. Sometimes the truth hurts. Sometimes it bankrupts you. Either way, it deserves daylight. And I knew then the trap was set. Lorraine never thought lawsuits were something that happened to people like her. In her mind, those were for the sloppy, the stupid, the unlucky. She pranced around Fayetteville like a VIP with a permanent pardon, wrapped in designer knockoffs and smug self-importance, her modest real estate success inflating her ego in a town where a 6-figure income still turned heads. She was Queen Bee at the country club, chaired every overhyped charity committee, and loved the sound of her own voice at women's luncheons where she preached success strategies like gospel. Legal trouble? That was for the peasants. Her delusion died the morning she got served, at the country club no less. 1 minute she was sipping her third oat milk latte, cackling about her stunning new Florida investment property, and the next, a nervous kid in a wrinkled suit appeared tableside, holding a manila envelope like it might explode. He cleared his throat, apologized to the room, and handed it straight to Lorraine. Mid-bagel, mid-brag, mid-lie. I made sure the whole thing played out like a soap opera finale. Peak brunch hour, packed house, every one of her manicured little frenemies bearing witness. The chandeliers glittered above her like stage lights. The oil paintings of historic Fayetteville looked on like judging ancestors. And Lorraine? She tried to play it cool. There must be some mistake, she announced, loudly enough to hush the hum of clinking teacups. Oh, honey, there wasn't. The envelope she held contained 37 pages of finely sharpened legal wrath. Shauna had drafted it like she was defending her thesis in advanced revenge tactics. Every paragraph was a dagger, every clause a grenade. And Lorraine had just pulled the pin, in front of the very crowd she lived to impress. The charges included undue influence over a vulnerable adult, fraudulent misrepresentation of estate documents, elder financial abuse under North Carolina state law, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Yes, her lawyer, David Kellerman, was named as a co-defendant. The best part? The media caught wind of it within hours. Grandma had been well known in our town, a retired school teacher beloved by 3 generations of students, a volunteer at the food bank, a woman who'd never missed a church service in 40 years. When the local paper ran the headline, "Niece accuses prominent local of inheritance fraud," people started whispering, loudly. Social media exploded with speculation and support. Someone had created a Facebook group called Justice for Eleanor Hartwell that gained 500 members in 2 days. I watched Lorraine try to contain the fallout like someone plugging holes in a sinking ship using wine corks. Her carefully constructed reputation began crumbling in real time. Her realtor license, suspended pending investigation by the state licensing board, the Naples condo, quietly listed for sale through a different agency to avoid association with her name. Her online boutique, some dropshipping business she'd started selling overpriced jewelry, flooded with 1-star reviews courtesy of angry townspeople who'd loved my grandmother. Oh yeah, Laura flipped. After going through that flash drive of evidence, bank records, audio recordings, medical documents, and a timeline that showed exactly how Lorraine had isolated and manipulated Grandma, she called me crying. The phone call came at 2 a.m., her voice thick with tears and rage. "I didn't know, Jess. I swear to God I didn't know. She told me Grandma was getting confused, that she was worried about you being so far away. I thought she was protecting her." I believed her. Laura might have been naive, but she wasn't evil. She was raised by the viper, not forged into one. The Instagram post she made 2 days later went viral. No makeup, eyes swollen from crying, her usually perfect hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. To everyone who followed my journey and looked up to my family, I just found out that my own mother stole from my cousin and manipulated my grandmother during her final days. I'm disgusted. I'm heartbroken. And I'm done protecting lies. She tagged it with #JusticeForJess and #ElderAbuse. It went viral. Within 24 hours, #JusticeForJess was trending locally, spreading beyond North Carolina to military communities across the country who rallied around one of their own. Comments poured in from fellow soldiers sharing their own stories of family betrayal and elder abuse. Local news stations picked up the story. Lorraine's country club friends started avoiding her calls. She tried calling me. Once, left a voicemail that said, "Can we talk like adults? This has gotten out of hand. Family should stick together." Her voice was shaky, desperate. A far cry from the confident woman who'd smugly handed me those books 2 months earlier. I blocked her number. If she wanted to talk, she could do it in court, under oath, with a stenographer recording every word for posterity. The Cumberland County Courthouse smelled like a mix of old wood and nervous sweat, the marble floors echoing with the footsteps of everyone whose life might get flipped today: lawyers, plaintiffs, defendants. Lorraine sashayed into courtroom 3B dressed like she was auditioning for Respectable Widow in a cheap TV drama, pearls gleaming, black dress tailored to mourn but flatter, leather handbag probably worth more than most folks' rent. She wore her practice smirk like armor. Me? No costume needed. I showed up in my army dress uniform, the same one Grandma had seen me wear at her funeral. Heavy wool, polished brass badges telling the story of 17 years of honor and service. When I walked in, the courtroom went silent. A soldier seeking justice for her grandmother, there wasn't a dry eye or an unfocused gaze in the room. The gallery was packed tight. Word had spread like wildfire through Fayetteville's tight-knit circles. Faces from church, the grocery store, old neighbors who'd watched me grow up, and who knew exactly what was on the line. Shauna, my lawyer, was a surgical weapon. Calm, polite, deadly. She'd planned this case like a general prepping for battle, every piece of evidence locked, loaded, and ready. Her opening statement was a quiet storm of fury, laying bare the brutal manipulation of an elderly woman by the one person sworn to protect her. First up, the doctor's affidavit. 20 pages of medical records and professional testimony proving Grandma was sharp as a tack until her last weeks. Dr. Branson even agreed to testify by video. The courtroom screen flickered to life with his familiar face, confirming that Eleanor Hartwell showed zero signs of confusion or dementia that would cloud her judgment. Lorraine's lawyer, a jittery young man constantly adjusting his tie, objected. "Irrelevant and prejudicial, Your Honor." "Overruled," Judge Morrison snapped. "The deceased's mental state is central to this case." Then came the audio. The courtroom speakers crackled, carrying the unmistakable ambient noise of a Chili's restaurant. And then, Lorraine's voice, crystal clear and damning. She was confused about a lot of things near the end. Names, numbers, what she even wanted. Sometimes she'd forget we'd already talked about things and bring up that old will again. The judge's eyebrows nearly shot off his forehead. Jurors leaned forward, their faces morphing from polite interest to raw disgust. Someone whispered, "Dear Lord," loud enough for half the room to hear. Then came the financials, displayed on giant monitors for all to see. Multiple massive withdrawals from Grandma's accounts after she was bedridden. Refi paperwork processed lightning fast, signed electronically on Lorraine's laptop, and witnessed by David Kellerman, the disbarred lawyer, now stuck looking miserable at the defendant's table. I watched Lorraine crumble, piece by piece. Her makeup thickened as if to glue her together. Her hands trembled as she reached for water. Her eyes stopped meeting anyone's. Her lawyer threw a Hail Mary. "Your Honor, my client acted with care, not coercion. The deceased wanted to update her estate to reflect practical realities. Mrs. Hartwell was worried about her granddaughter's military moves." That's when Shauna lit the fuse. She called Laura. Laura walked to the stand like she'd been doused in gasoline and set aflame. No Instagram gloss, just barefaced truth and stress-carved lines. She'd lost weight since our coffee shop talk. Her face was tight, eyes fierce. "I used to think Mom was protective," Laura said, voice steady despite tears threatening to spill. "I thought she was helping Grandma make smart choices. Now, I see she's a manipulator. She bragged to me about getting Grandma to do the right thing before it was too late." She paused, locking eyes on Lorraine for the first time that day. Her voice sharpened. She told me military people don't understand real estate, that Jessica would just sell the house and waste the money. Grandma was lucky to have someone who could manage things right. Then she delivered the knockout punch. If Grandma knew what she'd really done, she'd die all over again from the heartbreak. The courtroom sucked in a collective breath. Someone in the gallery sobbed, Mrs. Peterson, Grandma's bridge partner for 30 years. Even the court reporter blinked away the cracks in her professional mask. Finally, Lorraine cried, real tears. Mascara ran in dark rivers down her cheeks. But these weren't tears of regret. They were the breakdown of a woman watching her carefully crafted empire burn. Judge Morrison wasn't buying the waterworks. 23 years on the bench, he'd seen it all. When he spoke, his voice was final, cold. The court finds sufficient evidence of undue influence, financial exploitation, and fraudulent representation. The revised will dated August 15th is null and void. The original will is reinstated and damages awarded to the plaintiff. Just like that, I got it all back, plus damages. $180,000 in punitive fines taken from Lorraine's assets, including the Naples condo bought with stolen cash. But it wasn't about the money. Watching her net worth vanish was sweet, sure, but the real win was this. Lorraine stumbled out into a swarm of reporters and townsfolk waiting for the verdict. She tried to hide behind her designer handbag, but there was no escaping the cameras or the long-overdue justice. Shame clung to her like a second skin, crushing her once confident strut into a broken shuffle. Her real estate license? Revoked, pending a criminal probe. Her Naples condo? Sold off at a loss to pay the fines. Her reputation? Shattered in every whisper, every church pew, every backyard barbecue. As for me, I used part of the settlement to start a scholarship in Grandma's name, a fund to help local girls join the military without worrying about money. The Eleanor May Hartwell Memorial Scholarship would make sure Grandma's legacy lived on, helping the next generation of women serve with pride. After the verdict, Lorraine vanished like smoke. Rumor had her hiding out in Sarasota, clueless that Fayetteville had already burned her at the stake. Small towns don't forget, especially when you steal from a beloved teacher's granddaughter and call it caregiving. The gossip spread faster than a military op. Book clubs, church groups, PTA, wine clubs, everyone knew. And nobody wanted her. She lost everything overnight, kicked out from speaking gigs, stripped of honorary titles, abandoned by friends. Even her wine club dissolved. 2 members quit in protest, and the rest couldn't stomach pretending she was innocent. The local paper didn't hold back, running a brutal exposé, from family favorite to fraudster. Neighbors spilled the dirt. High-pressure scams, unpaid bills, shady favors. The portrait was ugly and irreversible. I thought about calling her, just to see if she'd cracked under the weight of it all. But then Mrs. Dorsey, Grandma's neighbor, called me instead. She looked a wreck, Mrs. Dorsey said. Hair a mess, clothes rumpled. Tried to ignore me in the cereal aisle. Shame walks with its head down, you can't hide from it forever. No calls returned, no apologies, just silence. Lorraine wasn't broke, she was radioactive. The town had done the work. Justice didn't have to be fast. It just had to be thorough. 3 months later, I held a quiet dedication at Grandma's favorite spot, Veterans Memorial Park by Cross Creek. We unveiled a bench engraved with her name. 12 local girls had already applied for the scholarship fund in her honor, helping the next generation of female soldiers. Laura came too, leaving a letter of apology under the bench, sealed with a stone. The air smelled like wood smoke and hope. It felt like peace. Then Lorraine showed up, a ghost in oversized sunglasses and faded designer clothes. Her shoulders slumped like she was carrying the weight of her own ruin. She hovered, mouth moving like she wanted to speak but couldn't. No one welcomed her. Whispered looks sliced through the crowd. After 10 painful minutes, she slipped away. No drama, no confrontation. Just a slow shuffle to her cracked windshield Toyota. That was the last time I saw her. Word came later. She'd sunk to a rundown rental near Fort Myers. X stopped paying her phone bill. Her online business tanked with fraud claims. The Naples condo sold for peanuts. Her Instagram turned ghost town. I didn't need revenge. Reality wiped her clean better than any plot I could dream. Justice wasn't loud. It was relentless and merciless. Lorraine lost her home, her job, her status. And the saddest part? I didn't even have to lift a finger at the end. Her lies did the job for me. Me? I'm back at Fort Liberty, running supply logistics and protecting my name, my legacy, and Grandma's house on Maple Street. Sometimes when I jog past that bench, I watch the sunset over Cross Creek and think, Lorraine taught me loyalty, not by example, but by showing me exactly what it's not. Family isn't blood. It's showing up when it counts, keeping promises, protecting the vulnerable, not exploiting them. Grandma knew it. I know it now. And somewhere in a cramped Florida apartment, I hope Lorraine finally does too. If that story hit a nerve, you're not alone. Family can break you or build you. What do you think? Did Lorraine deserve what she got in the end? Should she have gone to jail? Has anything like that ever happened in your family? Comment below. Want more shocking tales of betrayal, justice, and jaw-dropping consequences? Hit subscribe and don't miss the next story. It's even messier than this one. One click could be your next obsession.